Welcome to the Extraordinary Podcast, where we identify God's uncommon work in common life. Recognizing God's work requires intentionality, but articulating it motivates and inspires. Don't forget to subscribe to never miss an episode. In today's episode, I have a conversation with Nicole Hoisington, where she shares a few difficult situations in her life, but she also shares the lessons that she was taught through those situations and how they drew her closer to Jesus. So let's get into the conversation with Nicole. Nicole, thank you for taking time to be on a podcast today. We appreciate it. As we begin, could you share a little bit about your life growing up? We're recording this in Burlington, Iowa, and you grew up a long ways away from here. What was life like growing up for you, family, church background, those types of things?
So I grew up in Auburn, Alabama, and it was very hot and humid. It was, I would say definitely we were in the Bible Belt. That traditional kind of way they look at the South there. And so I grew up around people that went to church, but I didn't grow up in a family that went to church. My father came to know Jesus when I was about 12, and that was after he divorced my mom. So... so I don't know where you're wanting to go from there, but...
So, now you're an only child.
I'm an only child.
And so, just whatever that means, right? So,
yeah, the lonely child.
Now, in Alabama, you met Rob.
Yes.
Can you share... Rob was on the podcast end of May. Can you share how you guys met?
We were choir geeks. So, we were both in show choir together. We were in concert choir together. And I want to say I started to get a crush on him in 9th grade. And then in 10th grade, he asked me out when he found out that I had a crush on him. So we've been dating, we've been together since 10th grade. It's been about 26 years now. So, yeah.
Now, after high school... Yeah. Rob went to West Point.
Yes.
And then he had 8 years of active military service.
That's correct, yeah.
What was it like for you being married to an active military personnel, especially one who was deployed?
I'm going to be fair in my answer to this because I did not like deployment. I did not enjoy the travel aspect, but at the same time, I learned a lot from being in the Army. It forced me to grow up in a lot of ways. It forced me to lean into my faith. And I would say that that's really when my faith began to grow, was while Rob was in Iraq. So yeah.
How long was he in Iraq?
He was there for 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah, and when he got back, we both knew we never want to do that again.
So after Rob got out of the military,
sure.
You guys figured out where you were going to live, and you eventually ended up in Burlington, Iowa.
Yeah.
Can you share about what brought you to Burlington?
Yes, I can. It was, I would say for me personally, we were living in Tennessee before we came here, and it was a very dark time spiritually for me. I had just gone through cancer treatments.
Health concerns.
Health concerns. Yeah, we'll just leave. We made the decision to move to Burlington to be closer to Rob's family because my family, my mother is not in a position to really help, and neither was my dad physically. His health was not good, so we made the really hard decision to move far away from Alabama instead of a little bit of ways, and came to Burlington to be with him.
So, combination of health situations as well as being closer to family for a support network.
Absolutely.
Support system.
We definitely wanted that support, yeah.
Now, and you've been in Burlington since 2000?
I want to say 2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you currently have a job at the, not hospital, but...
Client Center.
Yeah. Can you share with us what you do and why you like it?
Okay. So, yes, I love sharing this story. So my father passed away in 2020, end of 2020. And he really, really needed in-home health care from hospice, and he refused it. And that was heartbreaking for me. He not only did he refuse help, but he refused any kind of medical intervention. And so that was very tough for me because I was very, very close to my dad. So after he passed, I don't know, it just something, I don't want to say something, I know what it was. It was Jesus. It was God, just kind of laid it on my heart. That I felt very called to serve in that capacity. So I really, really enjoy taking care of people in a long-term care facility, which is what I do. I work in memory care. Now that just kind of happened. I wasn't aiming for that. That just is where I landed, and I love it. And what I'm finding out is I really enjoy working with hospice patients. So that's kind of my long-term goal.
Any particular thing you like about that setting?
I love the people. I love being able to love on the residents. I love being able to exercise compassion. I love being able to serve. I feel like that's my calling, is to serve. And I don't know. It's where I come alive. Yeah.
And things like whether it's funerals or palliative care, those types of things, if you're not familiar with those areas, you can be very intimidated by them. But the family, the people that have a loved one there, they just want somebody to care.
Yeah.
And so and showing them they care is meaningful to them, and it helps them through a very difficult time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I feel like I've been there in a lot of different ways. I feel like I've gone through the grieving process with my mom because she has a lot of mental health issues, and then I went through it with my dad and then other family members too. I've seen a lot of death in my life, and so it's just very familiar. So
now you mentioned a little bit ago about when Rob was deployed, is when your faith started to maybe be more serious, or I'm not sure exactly what you would classify it as. Can you share a little bit about what happened and what it means that Jesus became serious to you in your life?
Well, I would say that watching Rob get on the bus to go to Iraq was probably the hardest thing emotionally I've ever done, because we were so connected, we were so close at such a young age, and I really latched on to him, probably in part due to my own family life, which was kind of broken. So watching him get on the bus was just really, really hard. It was a dark time for me. And I think church was really, my faith, prayer, the whole nine was really what got me through that. So, and really where like I said, I learned a lot.
Was there a moment or any particular moments that you remember that, that it was difficult, but it was, in the long run, it helped you grow?
I would say that really that whole year, it was a journey. I started working, I was teaching at a community college, and the people that I was teaching taught me a lot, it was very eye-opening. That whole experience was just very, very eye-opening for me. And then it was a taste of the real world. It was my first time moving away from Alabama. And yeah, it was just like I got hit with everything, so.
How long were you living where you were living before he was deployed?
Let's see, August, September, October, 3 months.
Okay. So not very much time for you to get settled before he left.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. We were very much thrust into that, so. Yeah.
And sometimes we need to be pushed to grow. And, it seems like you grew a lot through that time period.
I did, yeah. Still had a lot of growing left to do, and still do.
Yeah, we all do, that's for sure. But another time where you probably had a lot of growing that you did was with your journey with cancer.
Sure, yeah.
Could you share a little bit about that?
I can. That was definitely a turning point in my faith and in my life. as a whole. I found out that I had cancer the day after my 34th birthday. And Mary, at the time, who was our youngest, she was, I want to say, 15 months old. So I had Mary, who was 15 months, then I had John Michael, who was 4, and then Richard, who was 6. And when they told me that I had cancer there in the ultrasound room, I was extremely angry, because the first thing that came to mind is, I don't have time for this. I do not have time to go through cancer treatment. I have 3 kids and no family here to help me. How is this going to happen? So, we met with the doctors and everything, and they laid out the plan for the chemo and the radiation and the surgery and everything that we were going to do. And I just got even angrier. I told Rob, I said, I don't think I want to do this. I don't think I can do this. And it was this, I'll never forget the look in his eyes, because here we have 3 little kids. He's like, oh yeah, you're going to do this. And then you're left with this, okay, well, I'll do this, and it might not work. The treatment may not work, and I might die. I might die at 35. And I think that was where I was forced to, I guess, I felt myself coming before God, and I might get teary-eyed, I don't know, because this is always emotional for me. I felt myself coming before God and saying, is this all you have for me? This is it? I might not make it through this, and I might not raise my kids. I am the only one that I know that can love my kids the way that I do. And I begged him to let me stay. I prayed with my pastor. I prayed with so many people, and I felt the prayers coming at me. I'm sorry, just came over me out of nowhere. I felt the prayers, and the treatment started, and it was working in a big way, in a major way. It turns out that I had a type of tumor that was very treatable. So even though it was very large and it was in my lymph nodes, and we were, freaking out about where it had gone in my body, it was extremely treatable. And so my oncologist told me, he said, you are going to be fine. Mm-hmm. He said, and I don't say that to everybody. He said, if I am not sure that you will be here 20 years from now, and I'm telling you, you're going to be fine. So we finished the chemo because they wanted me to do the chemo before the surgery. We finished the chemo. When they went in to do I had a complete removal. I had a double mastectomy. When they went in and took all of the tissue out and they examined all the tissue, they found nothing. I had a complete response to the medication. And I think at that point I was like, whoa, okay, all right, this is not about me. Like, there's other people that this is involving, and it's not all about me, and God has a bigger plan. Because I didn't even want to go through the treatment. And in fact, when I started the treatment, the side effects were so terrible. I remember, this is not to be too much TMI, but I remember being sick to my stomach and sitting on the toilet and saying, God, if it's going to be like this, you can take me tonight. Mm-hmm. If it's going to be like this for 6 months, I give up. But that's not what he wanted me to do. So, and he sustained me, and so here I am.
So cancer-free.
Cancer-free. Yeah. That was 2015. And every year that goes by, I'm just, in more and more amazement. Now, that doesn't mean I'm without any health conditions. I inherited my dad's kidney disease, so that's the next battle. So we're still, seeing doctors, but so yes, but it's a journey. It is a journey. So I try to trust it.
And a lot of times, and I'm not sure if you would say this or not, but we may not think we have enough strength for whatever's in front of us, but
Exactly.
but God can give us the strength to
Absolutely.
do that. And
Absolutely.
saying you didn't want to do it, particularly when you didn't know what the outcome of the treatment would be.
Yeah.
That's really hard. We want to know the outcome. God, if I knew how it was going to work out, it'd make it easier for me. But that's not. God calls us to faithfulness, to obedience,
and surrender. Mm-hmm. Surrender. I think that's what I learned from that. That's the big takeaway for me, is to just surrender it. Yeah. Surrender it all. If this is all you have for me, then that's all I've got.
Now, you've shared a couple of difficult time periods in your life. Rob's deployment, your cancer, and I'm sure you have other difficulties that you've encountered. But what I'm getting at is there are people that face difficulties, sometimes small, sometimes large. Do you have any words of encouragement for them today?
Yeah, I would say surrender. Surrender and lean into our God, lean into Jesus, and lean in and trust the journey. Because the truth is, I would not, if I could do it over again, like if I could rewind, I would still go through cancer. Mm-hmm. Because I learned so much from it. I learned that we're here to love. I received so much love through that. I can't even describe it.
Yeah. That's interesting of that you'd still go through it because of what you learned, and sometimes we get so frustrated with the moment that we forget that there's something on the other side of the moment that Jesus has for us.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you for sharing, and the difficulties, but also the grace that's been embedded in your life.
Yeah.
I like to end with a very open-ended question.
Okay.
Is there anything else you would like to share? Whether it's something we missed or just another insight that you came across as we're talking.
I feel like I haven't said that enough about the love. The unconditional love, like how important that is that we're doing. I remember, and maybe this is another reason why I've gotten into nursing, but I remember so many special nurses that came alongside me who hadn't known me, but looked into my eyes and told me it was going to be okay. Mm-hmm. Or, hey, we're going to keep you comfortable. How's that? It's that kind of love, for someone to give of themselves in that way. It's taught me that no matter what I'm doing, I need to be doing it in love. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't come from a loving place, I don't need to be doing it. Yeah. So, yeah, that's it.
That's powerful. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being a guest on our podcast today. We appreciate you and just the way that you were able to share what God has done in your life. So thank you for being here today.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you for joining us for this podcast. Be on the lookout for how God does uncommon work in common life. And please subscribe to never miss an episode.